feel for women who just so want to be done with pregnancy and they are just looking for anything to. I cringe when people ask about that. I cringe when people post, what can I do to induce labor at home? Nothing. It really is like feedback, relax and eat ice cream. That's it. Like you can't, there's nothing you can do.
No, you're right.
Go ahead. I mean, by all means.
The scariest thing is what I experienced because I went overdue. And it's really scary because I think about my midwife, for example, like she told me before she tried all her crap on me, she was like, oh, the only one that works is going to the hospital to get induced. That's what she told me. And then when we got toward whatever, instead of just saying go to the hospital, she's like, here, try this concoction, do this. We're going to do castor oil, all this stuff. And so I didn't understand. I took the concoction and I did all the crap, but it was like, this stuff is actually extremely dangerous. And the only reason some of that seems like it works, because I looked up what castor oil does. And I also asked medical people, castor oil may work, but what it does is it tricks your body and it dehydrates you. So your body gets in this like protective mode to save your body so you don't die. It starts trying to eject your baby as fast as possible. And that's why you get really sick. You get diarrhea, people puke, they whatever. But it's
violently ill.
It's literally your body is like, it's violently ill enough that it's trying to just eject the baby out of there to save you. That's what it is. You're literally like poisoning your body. I didn't know that until afterwards, where people were like, I'm so glad you didn't take that, because I can't even imagine going like, what could have happened that day could have been I think in a way it would have been a whole nother terrible situation, because it would have been really messy and just awful. Like in whole nother ways. I can't imagine going to the hospital throwing up, or, you know what I mean? Or being like, I can't get off the bathroom. Like I can't off the toilet to go to the hospital. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of.
It makes people like violently ill. So your explanation makes a lot of sense. I didn't know that degree of it, but that makes so much sense, because it does. It just makes people super, super sick, and all of those different things that people try to, even the stuff that's more harmless. It's like, why though? Why are you eating no one wants to eat that many dates. No one wants to eat that much pineapple. And no one's having all sorts of great sex at 40 weeks pregnant. You can barely breathe. Like you can, like no one wants to, like the amount of sex you would have to have. Landing in the cascade of interventions that lands you with your C-section, that is the be all end all, the worst that could happen to you. That's what, So that's what she thought. Like, look what happened. I listened to these doctors. I did their interventions. I had the C-section. They forced me into it. It was the worst outcome. Now, unfortunately, now she knows what the worst outcome is. And my heart breaks for her that that's the case. But she probably is just victimized by the natural childbirth community.
No, you're right. And you know what she told me was she got into VBAC stuff and got into groups or whatever. She wasn't in the big VBAC group, but she was in these other crazy ones. And they basically told her, if you go to have your VBAC, like if a doctor will even want you to have a VBAC kind of thing, because that's what they do, apparently, you know, they get to judge you. But if you even go to do it, they're going to induce you. That's what she was told. And I was like, when she started telling me this, I was like I told her, I said, let me tell you that I had, when I was having William, I was given the choice of having a VBAC. I've had plenty enough time, you know, whatever, all these things. My doctor here in Vegas that gave me the offer, she said, we made a plan. Because I was like, I don't know if I want to be back. I told her, I said, I don't know. I had a baby die. I'm like really nervous about even being pregnant. And she was like, you can change your mind at any time. But she was like, this is what we can do. Since you labored later, like you were overdue, we can basically put like a thing like 40 weeks. If you're not like by a certain day, we'll just plan it as a C-section day. But she told me, she said, I really don't they don't like to induce for a VBAC because there's too many chances that it ups the ante for bad things to happen. Literally, that's what it is. And so that was my doctor down here. I ended up moving up north, and the doctor gave me the choice again. And basically we were making a plan just like we did down here. And it was literally the same thing. The doctor, all the doctors that I had talked to, all of them did VBACs, but all of them said, I do not induce. Like, I'm letting you know, you either go into labor naturally or you don't. Like, I'm giving your body the opportunity, but I'm not going to force your body to do this. And in my thoughts on this, because, the natural community has their big thing about women's whatever. In my thoughts of a doctor not pushing that on you, I kind of think that's more of a gentle birth, if you actually think about it, because those meds are super hard on your body. And for a doctor to say, hey, I want you to have a VBAC, but at the same time, I'm not going to take any risk and chances. To me, that's like your doctor has more love for you than the midwife, and has more concern for you, because they're like, hey, we're not taking chances with your body. I'm not going to make you labor like that. And we're not taking chances with your baby. Yes, the VBAC sounds great. So maybe you can go on and have other babies vaginally, but at the same time, does it really matter? Not really. Like, I just want you to be safe. You know what I mean? Like, how did you get here to begin with? Doctors normally don't just be like, I'm going to C-section every mother that comes along, like, just for no reason. No, you're going to get it today. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's not what they do.
And if they have that, it's just because if they do say we have to do all repeat C-sections, it's just the hospital that they are affiliated with. They either have the resources or they don't. And, as people who've had stat C-sections, we know that if you need a stat C-section, you need it quick. Like, so if your hospital is not equipped for that, and it's not equipped to care for and resuscitate and care for your baby, no, it's not. I will say that, like, there is, as you've heard, there is circumstances around VBAC where, or TOLAC, I should say, because obviously it's a VBAC if it actually happens, but there's sometimes when it's appropriate, or at least the risk and benefits can be weighed out for. At least the risks and benefits are going to be weighed out around that. But I said that you could have it for, and this is ultimately what happened with me. They said they wouldn't induce, they would do no induction to start labor. They would consider a lower dose to augment labor if labor stalled. And so that's ultimately what they did. If I could go back, well, first of all, if I could go back, I would have just scheduled a repeat. VBAC is a completely safe choice for a lot of people. But I do think that I've read about uterine ruptures and things like that, is that oftentimes your body slowing down and not progressing in a VBAC is oftentimes your body's way of saying, like, it's not working, like your uterus isn't handling this well. So it was not long. It was just within a couple of hours after I had my initial augmentation with Pitocin that I ruptured. So I do know, there's a direct correlation between Pitocin and really multiplying your risk with rupture, and it absolutely contributes. I have no doubt. Obviously, there's no way they can say for certain. There's no way they can look back and say this was the one thing that contributed to your rupture, but I do know Pitocin absolutely played a factor in mine. I had Pitocin and I ruptured 2 hours. And really within an hour, I started feeling things not being right. So
something I see a lot of people get upset about when they talk about trying to have a VBAC is, I don't want to schedule a C-section. The doctor is just rushing to schedule a C-section. And something I've been telling them, look, your doctor's trying to offer you the safest way to have your baby. It's not about, just rushing you into a C-section. They might need to schedule you so there are enough people around. So there's an OR that's, people don't think about that, or they don't know. And that's another huge miscommunication, because I know a lot of people who chose home birth are like, well, I can go to the birth center and it's just always open and they'll stay with me as long as I want. And they want that feeling of like how personalized it is. And a doctor wanting to schedule a section, even if they think you'd be okay candidate for a VBAC, that actually is personalizing it much more, because they care about the entire experience, no matter which way your baby gets into your arms.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And I think people don't think about the medical staff that it needs to have a C-section. Nobody thinks about that there's actually like, there's more medical staff than when you're just having your birth. Even for a VBAC, like you're you're in a room, you're doing your thing. You have other people there. There's other doctors there. There's other nurses there. Like there's a whole staff, a whole team. So scheduling a special slot that's just for you to have your baby, I think is very important. Even if you're going to do a VBAC, like it's in your mind, go ahead and do it. Because I think between my two births, if I like going back and looking at them, there's so much pressure on you to like have your baby. Like it's so like, I can't even explain. And I was in the natural world and I was doing breathing stuff and I was meditating and yoga and it was like really like, right there. But the thing was like, it was very like pressured. Like you were pressured to push your baby out your vagina. Like it is so like, I don't know why. There's just like this big pressure. And when you get to like your due date, it's like starts getting like, oh my gosh, my due date is here now. Like now what's happening? Like I still haven't had my baby. And then being a first time mom, they were like, oh, nobody has their baby as a first time mom before their due date. It's always after due date. So then you're like, okay. And then days are going by, all this time's going by and you're like, I still haven't had my baby. And there's like this pressure that is just, it was awful. Like I remember like thinking back, like I was getting messages on my Facebook from people that I didn't even talk to that were like, did you have your baby? If I bumped into anybody at the store or something, I was really huge. And they were like, you look like you're going to pop. And like, you should have your baby. Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Where they're just like.
People get so in your space. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yes.
No, you're
space towards the end. I remember like I worked up until the day I gave birth both times. And the second time, both times were 40 weeks, 5 days. And so I gave birth to Thomas on a Monday. So that was 40 weeks, 5 days, 4, 3, 2. So that Friday I was 40 and 2. And I worked on that Friday. I did tell myself. So Mondays at my job are payroll processing Mondays and they suck so bad. And I was like, payroll is just an aspect of my job, but it's like one of the most tedious things. And I was like, I'm giving birth. I would rather give birth than be there for payroll Monday. So I was like, if this baby does not come, I'm putting myself into labor. I don't care. Sure enough, I went into labor Sunday going into Monday. And I texted my director and was like, enjoy payroll. I'm not doing it, but that's just a little funny side story. She remembers it to this day. She cracked up. She said, Megan, you literally like said you were going to the hospital and you were like, oh yeah, I'm not doing payroll. It was just like a mess, but anyways, that's a side thing. But I remember every day I walked in from like 38 weeks on, people would be like, still no baby. And I would be like, does it look like I've had a baby? And they would be like, oh, baby, any baby yet? And then it was like constantly like, did you eat pineapple? Did you walk? No, I didn't think of walking yet. Thanks for adding that. Thank you for sharing walking as a suggestion. And then it would be like, the only way that you can, and I would be like, Betty from accounting, I didn't need to know that about you. And here we are. No, I don't want to do this. I don't want to hear your suggestions. None of them. Nope. No, thank you. Oh, that was more information than I needed to know about you. Like, no. Oh my gosh. And I was just like, oh, I can't think of one thing I'd want to do less right now than what you're suggesting. So I'm like, I can barely breathe walking to the bathroom right now.
Yeah, I think that's so stupid when they're like, walk, and you're like, getting to the bathroom is like a marathon, Will my bladder give out before my legs do?
Yeah. Right. Or like, just spice it up with and I'm like, no,
I don't feel, I feel like I'm wearing my tightest clothes. I got indigestion. I feel like it's really humid. I don't need any extra help. Feeling uncomfortable. Thank you very much.
The worst thing, like when I was pregnant with my first, I worked at casinos, huge casinos. And all I did was walk around all day. That was my job, to walk and stand around. So, I spent my whole pregnancy and I worked, sounds really crazy, but I worked up to like 40 weeks. I was like super overdue. But I'm pretty sure my last day I was about 40 weeks pregnant. And I was just like, I constantly was just walking around, constantly doing my thing. And I do, like, when people would say stuff about being active, I'm like, that's all I freaking do. All I do is walk around constantly. You know what I mean? Like, all I do is like go do whatever. And no, that's just not how it works. Like, you don't just walk your baby out. Like, we're not going to go get on a trampoline.
And I did do, because at the end I was so desperate and I was getting irritated with them, but then I was like, well, maybe they're onto something. So I really did try all the things. I ended up eating the pineapple and eating the dates and doing all of it. And unfortunately, I didn't know the risks of it at the time. And I do think this may have contributed to my rupture as well. I drank the red raspberry leaf tea because people said it's this uterine strengthening thing. And I was just like, and I think, to be honest, and here's where my midwives were pretty evidence-based, but I think they fell on they didn't talk against that to me. They were like, sure, drink some leaf tea, red raspberry leaf tea. Yeah, it's, pregnant women have drank that for a long time. And these are CNs that I had, and they still, so I was honest with them. I was like, I'm thinking of drinking this tea. And they're like, yeah, it won't hurt. It might not do anything, but it won't hurt. When I brew tea, I brew a lot of it. Like I make green tea at home now, and I'm a tea drinker and a coffee drinker. I'm just a caffeinated person for the most part. I just function with caffeine. And I make it I grab a bunch of tea bags and I make it on the stove. And I'll do a big batch of it, and then I pour it into and cool it. I let it get room temperature, and then I put it in the fridge and I drink it iced, like no matter the flavor. A lot of it, I do a lot of iced tea. So that's what I did. I made a highly concentrated batch of red tea, and I drink a lot of it. I would put it in my little things and go to work and drink it. And I drink it as like a beverage each day from like 38 weeks on.
Yeah.
Tea. I mean, it's not like it was my beverage, but I did have a fair amount of it. And I do think that so I'm honest about that.